So official. Good to go, it said. Yeah, it looks like we've got 8 people in the session. That's great. My name is Ben Iverson, and I serve as Director of International Programs and Enrollment at Augustana University. And today we're going to talk about the advantages from our perspective on choosing a university in the Midwestern region of the United States. So we'll dedicate about half the session to that, and then we'll each take 5 minutes or so to talk about our schools. But before we get into the session, I'll just invite my 2 co-panelists to introduce themselves as well. Becky, do you want to go?
Yes, I'm Becky Hansen, happy to be here from the University of Iowa.
Yeah, thanks, Becky. My name is Ryan Griffin. I'm the Director of International Admissions at the University of Missouri, often called Mizzou. So now Ben's going to kick us off with talking a little bit about what we see as advantages of studying in the Midwest region.
All right, so hopefully this works, and Ryan will be able to pull up the PowerPoint here. Maybe, maybe not.
Oh, are you not seeing it, Ben?
I'm not, no. I don't know if our panelists can see it, or I mean our participants. Maybe they can type in the chat if they can see it. I can try. Oh, there it goes. Now I can see it.
Great.
Perfect. Sorry for the technical difficulties there, but again, we represent Augustana, Iowa, and Mizzou. We've called ourselves the AIM group because A for Augustana, I for Iowa, and M for Missouri. And it also stands for Advantages in the Midwest. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Ryan, and we'll get right into it. So this is probably an obvious question, but what do 225,000 international students in the United States have in common? And the answer is they live and study in the Midwest. And so the Midwest region actually is home to about a fifth, 21% as of a couple of years ago, of all of the international students in the United States. And so coming from Canada, you probably have a sense of where this region is, but just in case, here on the next slide, you can see the Midwest is really that light blue region in the center part of the country that shares quite a nice long border with Canada, obviously. In some ways, we often might think of the Midwest divided in half, with an eastern half kind of starting with Wisconsin there, and the western half where all 3 of our universities happen to be located. And so this is just kind of a zoomed in version of what you just saw. So my university is up there at the top in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Augustana University. The University of Iowa is in the center there in Iowa City, Iowa, and the University of Missouri down at the bottom in the city of Columbia, Missouri. So we all share some geographical similarities, even though there's lots of differences between our institutions. Go ahead to the next one. And so probably coming from Canada, you know a little bit about the Midwest already. You might know that the Mississippi River is the most important river system in the United States that touches quite a number of our states. Mount Rushmore is the most famous monument in the state of South Dakota, where I come from. Gateway Arch in St. Louis, Missouri is another very famous monument. And, historically, this region maybe was known for being a little bit more culturally homogenous. People kind of came from similar, often Scandinavian or German backgrounds. But that's really kind of a dated assumption about the Midwest. Starting about 20 years ago, things really started to diversify. And today, we have restaurants from all over the world, people of all sorts of faiths. In the public school system where I live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, they say that there are something like 80 languages spoken. And so this isn't the Midwest of the past. This is a dynamic, growing sort of place that we'll tell you a bit more about as we move forward here. So go on to the next one, if you would, Ryan. So what are the advantages of the Midwest? I'm just going to kind of give an overview here, and then we'll share some statistics about these things with you as well. But definitely, if you look at some of the different safety statistics, and we'll share some of these with you, the Midwest region, by comparison to other regions of the U.S., is a really safe place to live. I think we pay a lot of attention to the environment in this region, just like you do in many parts of Canada. Less dense population, certainly if you can compare us to the East Coast or to California. And of course, that plays itself out in terms of less traffic and pollution and some of the problems that come with larger cities, I think. Perhaps the biggest thing, the biggest advantage for you of a student is that this region has one of the lowest cost of living in the United States as well. And so the quality of education, of course, is really very good in the Midwest, but the price of housing and meals and transportation, those kinds of things, really are pretty low in comparison to other parts of the country. This region also, even during the pandemic, has had an excellent local economy. Unemployment where I live, and I think it's true in Iowa and Missouri as well, has been super low, 3% in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, at least. And so really easy for students to find internships and jobs and those kinds of things, even as a Canadian citizen. And so all of that ultimately just produces less stress for people that live here and a good quality of life, I think, ultimately. In the Midwest here as well, you probably know that we have 4 seasons. That's, of course, similar to many parts of Canada as well. So not so different, especially if you come from the central part of Canada. We do have a proper winter here, I guess, if you're coming from a more temperate coastal part of Canada. But 4 distinct seasons, and just like where you live, probably Americans in this region really know how to enjoy each season and rejoice in the outdoors, I think. So that's just a quick overview of a few of the advantages. But now I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, and he's going to share some statistics about some of the things that I mentioned in terms of safety and unemployment and so forth.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ben. So as Ben mentioned, the Midwest part of the U.S. is an area that tends to be very safe. We know that this is something that's of a lot of importance, not only to students that are maybe looking at studying abroad and coming south to study in the U.S., but certainly to your parents as well. So again, this is a survey taken by the organization SafeWise. So they polled citizens across the United States to essentially get their feeling about how safe they felt with where they lived. And you can see that the Midwest region, in particular here, it's labeled the West, North, Central, includes all 3 of the states, all 3 of the universities where we're located, was one of the areas of the United States that actually felt that inhabitants there were some of the safest that they could see. And extending that a little bit more, certainly violent crime is kind of what grabs headlines and what, again, parents certainly worry the most about if they're thinking about where they may be comfortable sending their children to school. And once again, the Midwest region, as well as kind of that Pacific Northwest region, tends to be some areas where people are the least concerned about violent crime. So again, the states here that we see in that blue or kind of teal color are the ones where residents are not really worried about having violent crime as part of their life on a daily basis. So again, making it look like studying in the Midwest and living in the Midwest can be a very safe proposition. Now, this chart here in this data actually kind of backs that up. So this is from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this is showing unemployment rates. Obviously, this harkens back to a couple years. There's been some economic shakeups between now and then. But overall, as Ben mentioned in the introduction, this is something we're still seeing, that Midwest economies are very strong and growing very strong. So statewide, again, this kind of light yellow or light orange color that's predominantly taking over most of the Midwest shows that there's some of the lowest unemployment rates in the country, in the United States. So this kind of goes hand in hand with what we've already looked at. So if people are gainfully employed, then there's not really going to typically be as many of those opportunities or possibilities for crime and certainly violent crime that can sometimes accompany that. Now, this is something that is not unnoticed. So here we're looking at some of the fastest growing metro areas in the Midwest and Northeast, so looking at about half the country. And of no surprise, we're able to see all 3 of the cities where our universities are located right up in the top. So when you look at Sioux Falls, South Dakota, coming in at 3rd there, Iowa City, Iowa, and then Columbia, Missouri. So these are things that even within the United States, many people are noticing and actually coming to these cities where our universities are located because of the great opportunities like we've been talking about. Now, Ben had also mentioned earlier that one of the great things about the Midwest region is that there's a lower cost of living. So essentially, the same goods and services that you're going to need. If we're thinking like a student, then obviously that's pizza, a place to live, maybe getting out to see some music or a movie every now and again. Those things are going to be less expensive in the areas where our universities are located when compared to some of the more expensive regions of the United States. So here, this is giving the idea of what the relative value of $100 is in each of the different states. And we look at where we're located in South Dakota. That $100 is going to stretch to be nearly more $113. Iowa, we're looking at over 110, and in Missouri, 111. So obviously comparing that to some of the maybe more well-known metropolitan areas in the U.S., Los Angeles, obviously out in the state of California, they're below $88. And in New York, we're even lower at 86. So again, the cost that you're going to incur, your money's going to go a little bit farther if you choose to study in this Midwest region where we're located. And again, this kind of is something that when you start to take all these things in aggregate, the idea of safety, that clean environment that Ben had mentioned earlier, some of the opportunities that are involved with the growing economies of these areas, then those are all going to kind of stack up and, again, not surprisingly, land our cities on some of the most livable places in the U.S. So this is by a group called Livability. They essentially took these factors as well as then looking at healthcare, obviously employment and education opportunities, which again, our schools add to that in our local communities. But our three cities, Iowa City in at 4th, Columbia at 6th, and Sioux Falls at 7, actually placed in the top 10 of the most livable places in the U.S. And again, kind of to our larger point, 6 out of those top 10 were actually located in the Midwest region of the United States. So this is, again, something that even many Americans are really looking at and thinking about moving to this region of the country. So all of this to kind of culminate in what we're talking about, this Midwest region, is that really it's an incredibly friendly place. There's the phrase here in the U.S. that's often said, Midwest nice, and it just really kind of refers to the way people in the Midwest treat each other and treat others that visit or come to live with us. Midwesterners are known for being very friendly, very hardworking, and also very welcoming. So it's certainly one where if you choose to come and study at any of the campuses that we're introducing here this evening, then you're going to be welcomed with open arms and become part of that community very quickly. This also stretches to what's offered on our campuses. So formal services that are there to be able to help international students get acclimated, get off to their best start, as well as then to get the most out of their entire career. So from start to finish with orientation, leading all the way to when you're looking at graduation, and even after graduation, you're going to have support from our career services teams on our campuses that are going to help you take advantage of the OPT that comes with your student visa, as well as then to use the most out of your degree from our schools in finding that post-graduation employment. So that's an introduction to the Midwest region. And now we're going to give you a couple of brief introductions to each of our 3 schools. And then we hope to be able to continue that conversation with you all in our individual booths after the presentation. So Becky, would you like to tell us about the University of Iowa?
Yes, I sure would. I'll keep this brief. It's hard to say everything about a large school like this in 5 minutes, but I'll do my best. This is a night view of our campus, 1,900 acres. Next slide. It's a large institution in a small city. 31,000 students enjoy living in Iowa City, a top 10 college town. 1,700 are internationals from 100 different countries. So you can picture quite easily, I think, small city, big university, full of diversity. We love our connections to the big cities around us. Chicago's just 4 hours away, Minneapolis to the north. Those are hubs of companies who come near graduation to interview our graduates. So that's what we want you to know. Iowa City, a top college town, highly ranked, number 35 best public university in the United States, but much more beyond the rankings that we'll look at next. Iowa City has some very unique features. Welcome to Iowa City. At the top, you see world-class hospital. Many students study healthcare fields with us due to this unique direct hospital connection. At the bottom of the screen, another unique feature, seamless town and campus. That green space says the heart of campus If you step across one street, you're connected to downtown Iowa City, full of coffee shops. Students love to hang out and study there, restaurants, bookstores, pharmacies. Everything students need is in about 15 to 20 minutes walk from where they live on campus. And next slide, we have over 200 areas of study, a large comprehensive school. Our College of Business is number 23 best business program in the United States. Our engineering program ranks in the top 20%. We happen to be number 2 in creative writing. We have Iowa Hawkeyes writing for Hollywood. Very strong STEM school. We're part of the one of 65 AAU members. Those are the elite research intensive schools in North America. 2 you have in Canada and the rest here in the US. So if you break that down, half are private schools, Ivy League, and we're one of 35 public universities with that designation. So if you're considering a STEM field especially, you might want to look at that group. So what do students do outside of class? They get part-time jobs. Jobs are plentiful at our large school. They join 2, 3, or 4 student organizations. They can relate to your major. They can be unrelated. There are a lot of sport clubs that you can join. Music performances, there's a free music performance every day of the week in our College of Music. And of course, we're NCAA Division I sports. Many Canadians do study with us and provide us our athletic entertainment. So football, wrestling, basketball, you name it. We'd like you to be a national player to get recruited by our athletic teams. And so the outcomes, the investment in your education is worth it. 95% job placement or grad school in 6 months. How does that happen? You work with our Career Center. There's a separate entire office full of people who want to meet with you to make sure you're getting the right courses into your degree. That the companies are looking for internships. They'll help you get that part-time job. And then, of course, they bring employers to campus every year near graduation. Lots and lots of help to reach your goal. For admission, you must be an above average student. Very briefly, that's a 3.0 B average. No English proficiency for Canadians. If you're from another nationality outside of that, we may ask you for a TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo, but that's it. No essay and no letters of recommendation, and you're automatically considered for a scholarship up to $10,000 per year. So very easy to apply directly or the Common App. We're still accepting applications, and we're admitting students now for fall 23. So we hope you'll take a good look at Iowa, and then some contact information. Whew, lots to tell. Contact me after today and we can do a one-to-one Zoom. Thank you very much.
That was pretty good, Becky. It's a tough act to follow. But I'm next with Augustana University. Augustana, by contrast to Iowa and Missouri, is a small private university. We've only got about 2,100 students. We do that intentionally because we like the idea of small classes. Students get to know one another very well and their professors. The average class size here is only about 20 students or so. So it's that sort of environment. 2,100 students. Of those, about 200 international students from 50 countries, including Canada. So again, relatively diverse. We compete in NCAA Division II athletics, meaning that we offer sports scholarships for students. I see that there's a question in the chat about baseball. I'm actually an old baseball player at Augustana University, so come see me in the booth and we can talk a bit about baseball opportunities. But uniquely, maybe, we are the newest institution with an NCAA Division I men's hockey program, in fact, set to start in fall of 2023. So if you're a hockey player with those kinds of aspirations, we could certainly chat about that as well. Go ahead to the next one, Ryan. So even though we're small, there's over 100 different majors, minors, and pre-professional programs. You can see a list of some of the most popular ones there, at least for international students, but they kind of range from some of the typical STEM programs, computer science, data science, lots of business programs at Augustana as well, in part because the state of South Dakota has some tax laws that make it really advantageous for banks and investment firms to locate here. So lots of good internships and job possibilities, especially in banking and trusts and finance and those kinds of things. But quite a range of academic opportunities here at Augustana. Go ahead to the next one, if you would, Ryan. Sioux Falls is sort of a medium-sized city by American standards, largest city in our state, 250,000 people. And as I was saying, a major center for finance in particular, but also technology and healthcare. And so, again, as you think about kind of building your profile, either for graduate school or for employment someday, we know that it's kind of the hands-on opportunities that are complementary to the theoretical experience you'll get in the classroom that ultimately propel students towards employment and graduate school success. So we definitely help students with both sides of that equation. Go to the next one, if you would. And so there's all these rankings out there. But anytime you're in the top 5 in the US for young professionals, we feel pretty good about that. Again, well-paying jobs, low cost of living, good quality of life, that definitely makes sense. And of course, anytime that you're in the top 20 happiest places in a country, I think that's a nice thing to think about as well. Go ahead to the last one, if you would, Ryan. And so similar maybe to what Becky was sharing, we're very proud of this, but in the most recent outcomes report, 99% of our graduates found jobs in their field following graduation. So definitely worth the investment, so to speak, when you think about that sort of outcome. So that's a bit about Augustana, and now we'll turn it over to Ryan for the University of Missouri.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So I'm here representing the University of Missouri. So we are the flagship university for the state educational system in the state of Missouri. If you don't remember from earlier when we were showing a little bit off about the Midwest, I've got it highlighted in the map of the United States down there in the corner. We're in gold. And so here at Mizzou, large public research university, we have just about 32,000 students on campus right now. Those 32,000 students represent all 50 of the U.S. states, as well as over 110 countries from around the world. Now, we're a comprehensive university, meaning we have a very wide range of degree programs. You see here actually totals about over 300 from bachelor's all the way up through PhDs. Those include our School of Engineering, our Missouri School of Journalism, Truless College of Business, Sinclair School of Nursing. So a wide range of programs throughout many different fields. And that's part of what attracts such a large number of students to our campus. Similar to the University of Iowa, we're also a proud member of the Association of American Universities. So one of 35 public schools here in the U.S. to be invited to be a member of the AAU. As she mentioned as well, a lot of that is based upon research that occurs on our campus. So we're a Carnegie R1 institution, and that's something that even as undergraduate students that you can really benefit from. And we'll look at that here on a future slide. We have on campus over 600 different student organizations. So again, that large campus, lots of different influences, diverse student body. It means you're going to be able to really be involved in whatever you are already doing in secondary school or exploring new areas that you'd like to as you go on to university. And even with that size, we do still maintain an 18-to-1 student to faculty ratio. And our average class size on campus is just 27 students. So we do still make sure that students are able to get the individual time with their professors. Now, I mentioned that we're an R1 or Research 1 institution, and that means that you as a student are going to have the opportunities to learn from some of the best. Our faculty right now has 1 Nobel Prize laureate, as well as 12 members of the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. Part of those, or some of the reasons that we're able to attract such talented faculty is because of the focus on research. So the photo here, we have a lot of different kind of pictures of some of the different facilities across campus. We're a well-resourced school, excellent facilities with a lot of a focus on research, and that really attracts some of that top faculty from around the world. So you as a student get to benefit from that by being in the classroom, learning from those experts in their field, as well as maybe even getting to join them in research projects. So our campus, we practice what we call the Missouri method of instruction. And this is an idea of making sure that experiential learning is going to be part of everything that we do on campus. We know that we do a good job of teaching you in the classrooms, but what we really get excited about is watching you take that knowledge and go doing something else with it. If that's research with different professors, if that's student competitions, build clubs, working within entrepreneurship or internships, we really like to see you working outside the classroom and outside the campus and taking those skills that you learn on our campus and doing something new with it. And that's really something, like I said, that we try and make sure is an integral part of every program that we have. Now, that certainly does lead to some very good success rates. A 95% positive career outcomes rate for our May 2021 graduates. So within 6 months, 95% were hired in their field or on to graduate study, so continuing their educational career. Part of that is because of the great connections and networks that we have here at Mizzou. Last year, now that things are opening back up here in this post-pandemic world, we had over 11,000 recruiters join us on campus. So again, coordinated by the career services offices in each of our different academic units. They're there because they want to meet and interview and talk with Mizzou graduates because they know that they're able to fill the positions that they have at their firms. So it's something that we know a Mizzou degree can really help to open a lot of doors for our graduates. Now, I think that's all the time that we have there. So here you can see our contact information. If you would like to follow up after today's session with an email to any of us or to check out more information on our websites. Would also invite anyone listening to make sure and come find our booths after the presentation here, because we'd be happy to have a more direct one-on-one conversation with you during the rest of the fair. So thanks again, and I think we'll go ahead and close out here.